Happy Sunday, happy Sunday, happy Sunday. Not only that, we haven't had one of these in a long time. It is a victory Sunday, and we have the tripod here. We got a couple of smiles on some faces because it is a victory Sunday. Got the Madman, got Ride Eye. We got everybody here. I'll start with you, Ryan. How are you doing?
Doing great. I mean, it was a great all-around weekend in LA. You got USC gets back in winning ways, which we'll talk about, 42-20. Dodgers up 2-0. Lakers are 3-0 to start the season. Clippers end up beating the Nuggets to get to 1-1. Chargers even won.
Hey. We don't talk about the Clippers and Chargers on this podcast. We don't talk about LA's cousins. That's for the network.
Still part of the family. Cousins are still part of the family.
They're the cousins that don't get
Good
invited.
weekend for LA.
They're the cousins that are in rehab. Put it like that. No, it was a big weekend. How are you doing, Matt, man?
Doing well, Coach. Absolutely. Like Rye said, I mean, I think we're all Dodger focused here these last couple of days and 2 away from the big one. What an electric couple of days it's been. And Friday in particular, to have the Lakers, the Dodgers, and SC at home. There was Mater Dei, St. John's Bosco, 2 concerts. I mean, it was a scene Friday night in LA for sure. But, always great to chat Trojan ball with you guys.
Don't forget about the East LA Classic at SoFi.
East LA Classic, absolutely. And I have a theory. I mean, one of the reasons why it was such a successful LA sports weekend is UCLA football was on a bye, so you can't lose if you're on a bye. So that helps.
Hey, also USC basketball beat Gonzaga in an exhibition, and
did they win that game?
That doesn't count. Yeah,
No, but it's still.
We can't forget this out. We can't leave this out. Congratulations to USC's women's soccer team. Home the first Big Ten title to the former Pac-12 teams. USC women's soccer team won the Big Ten, the regular season Big Ten. They entered the tournament. I think they started at the end of the week, but congratulations to them. The first one is at SC. The first Big Ten title is at SC. And unfortunately, it's not the sport we wanted to be in, but we have one up under our belt. Let's get into the nuts. Jamal, did I ask you how you were doing? Yeah,
you did. Absolutely, you did.
Okay.
Coach, you're doing a great job. Yeah.
Ryan, question for you. How bad was Friday's traffic? Was it as bad as they made it seem, or were you able to get ahead of it before we get started?
Dude, it was weird. It was better than a Saturday going to the game. I did leave extra early, but I got there in 40 minutes.
Oh, nice.
I left at 4:00, so an hour before Dodger game, so I figured I'd definitely hit some traffic because I got to drive right through downtown, right past Dodger Stadium, right past Crypto. I got there quicker than a normal Saturday 4:30 kickoff, so it was weird, really weird. So it looked worse coming from the south, coming from like the South Bay up to 110, and I'm sure coming from West LA wasn't great, but for me,
all the Orange County's folks who could afford it.
Yeah, maybe that. Yeah, maybe you just no one around downtown actually was, but you still had to drive through it, so. I don't know. But yeah, it wasn't bad. I'm pleasantly surprised.
I'm going to use the Lincoln Riley line. We were a babysitter away from going to game one. We found tickets. We legit found tickets on an app. I don't want to use the app because they're not paying us, so I'm not going to say their name. But there's an app where they actually have cheaper tickets, and they were $735. And me and the missus was like, why not? Right, it was in the left field pavilion. It wasn't in the right field pavilion, unfortunately. But it was like, why not? And it was like, it's too late. We wouldn't be able to find anybody to watch the kids. So, yeah, we were a babysitter away from being at the game one and watching that magic. Watch Freddie top Kirk.
Freddie, oh man, 2 away, Coach. 2 away. Let them. Fingers crossed that. I just want them to kind of win it any way they can. The quicker, the better. But it would be very special if they were able to win it in LA. If it was game 6, a game 6 clincher would be very special.
Yeah, definitely. We just can't do what we did with the Mets as far as, this is in the bag. We can't pull that one off then. But we'll see. We had to New York. The Dodgers head to New York, and then we can see how they're playing. Let's get into Friday. So what I wanted to do, and I completely forgot, I was going to go buy a Miller Lite and get some lemonade and like legit mix it in front of you guys because we saw the shandy happen on Friday. And I'm just going to jump into Makai Lemon. Makai Lemon has been my guy since day one. Always like Makai Lemon. Makai Lemon, 4 receptions. He had 4 catches for 134 yards and a touchdown. And he had a big kick return. Makai Lemon, he had 1 drop ball, and just the devastation. Like I saw, he was the gunner on punt return. He was just hitting himself upside the head. Like, I can't believe I dropped that. But Makai Lemon is coming into form. I believe, and Jamal, you've been asking about this for a very long time. I believe Makai Lemon is the guy that's trying to be wide receiver number 1. And I'm gonna tell you why, and I'll pass it on to you guys. Makai Lemon could run underneath and he could go up top. He's kind of versatile and freaky in that way. He's a little bit of Steve Smith, our Steve Smith that I play with, but he has a little bit of he could go up top and go get it. He's not, and he's deceptively fast. He's faster than he looks, I guess I should say. But big game for him. We've been seeing this coming, and it looks like the Followers boss have been really good. I'm happy to see it. I want to talk with Good. Miller Moss had a great game, 2 touchdowns, 308 yards. I'm happy to see these guys perform, but I'm not happy with the performance. I'm going to get into that. What do you guys think from Friday? Start with Ryan. He was there. He saw it. He was in the empty Coliseum.
Yeah, I was. No, I mean, I actually wrote today that Makai Lemon right now is wide receiver 1. I think he's taken that. He's led the team the last 3 weeks actually in receiving. It just, there are 2 losses, so it didn't really get talked about, but he's kind of been the go-to guy. I think he's the most reliable that we've seen. There's the unbelievable playmaking ability of Jacoby Lane, and obviously the size and mismatch of Deuce Robinson. But I think Lemon's shown that he's been the most consistent and the most, in critical times makes key catches. And then he has that, elusive speed that you alluded to. And to me, just to be more recency, I guess, I'm not even comparing him necessarily as a perfect comp, but he reminds me play style of like Amon-Ra St. Brown in the sense they both played more from the slot. The size is similar. They can go over the middle a lot. I mean, his big 70-yard catch was a intermediate crossing route over the middle that then he just took it over the sideline up for 70 yards. So, I think Lincoln Riley schemed a lot of good plays up where he was getting guys open, in the middle of the field a lot against this secondary of Rutgers. So, but yeah, I think Makai's played great. It was cool to see them switch it up and make him the kick returner. And obviously it paid off with the big kick return that he had. So, did a lot of different things and yeah, I'll leave it at that for now. We'll get into that. I don't need a big monologue to open, but yeah, I think Makai Lemon right now is wide receiver 1.
Man.
Yeah, no, this was
Wait,
certainly
let me cut you off real quick. I just noticed this when I was getting ready for the show, and I instantly forgot. This was a big weekend for you, bro, and I apologize for not texting you. Happy birthday, dude.
No, thank you, Coach. Thank you so much. It was the big 4-0. We got the 4 in front of the age now. So yeah, but thank you so much, Coach. Absolutely. No,
I apologize for not mentioning that earlier. Happy
no,
birthday,
no, not at all, not at all. No, it's fun weekend indeed, and great to have all the teams win. That's a celebratory weekend. No, this was definitely the Makai Lemon game, Coach. No doubt about it. We've been kind of waiting for it. We felt like it was sort of at the tip of the iceberg. I think the thing that makes it so impressive for me is it just every time it felt like this was going to be a competitive game, Lemon made a big play. Whether it was the kickoff return when the game was 7-3 and showcased so much great vision there. And then, things got a little dicey there, middle of the third quarter, 28-20, Rutgers had scored 11 straight, got that 2-point conversion. And then that first play, that 70-yard pass, was kind of an underneath pass. And then he was able to sort of slip the defender and have all that yak and leading to that sort of 35-20 score and then a stop and then got that 40-yard touchdown. So, the 4 catches, like you said, the 134, the touchdown. Let's see. I think he's on the cusp of being wide receiver 1, but it's one of the, interesting stat. This is only the second 100-yard game for USC this year from a receiving standpoint. It was the Jacoby Lane game against Wisconsin and now Lemon here against Rutgers. So, we felt like we've been kind of on the cusp of wide receiver 1, and let's see if someone can really grab the reins now and sustain over a couple of weeks. We thought it was Hudson opening night with those 2 spectacular catches against LSU, and he tapered off a little bit. Then it was the Jacoby Lane coming out party against Wisconsin. We thought he would kind of take the bull by the horns and sort of extend. That didn't quite happen. And now it's sort of Lemon's term with this 100-yard gain. So let's see how this sort of translates in the weeks to come. I do think that Lemon is very well positioned, to your guys' point, to be wide receiver one. I think Lane still has some growing into his body to do. I think he gets a little bit out physicaled with press coverage and bump and run, and it's hard for him to sort of establish kind of a physical presence and a catch radius. So as he's sort of working through that, and then I think with Deuce, I think it's a little bit more, he's a mismatch, but is that yards after the catch kind of there, or is he sort of limited to kind of big third downs, big red zone plays? So the fact that Lemon has such tremendous ability to get open as well as kind of that speed, I think he's got the tools to be wide receiver one. Let's see if this now translates. And I think the comp for me, I'll be honest with you, because he's got such a unique body at 5'11", 190, he just, it's interesting to watch him with the ball. It doesn't feel like a wide receiver is holding the ball. It feels like a running back's holding the ball after he's a wide receiver pre-catch, and then he's a running back post-catch. And so to me, kind of the interesting comp, just in terms of style, actually is Alvin Kamara. When he holds the ball and he's running, it feels like, and Kamara's running with the ball, they feel very similar to me stylistically. So very encouraging to see sort of Lemon break through. But now let's see if he can sort of sustain and take the bull by the horns there. I do think it's really important for someone to emerge as Miller Moss's kind of favorite wide receiver target moving forward here.
All right, well, let's really jump into the game. I'm gonna ask you guys this question. I'll start with you, man. Over to Ryan. How did you guys feel coming out of the game Friday night? Were you guys like, okay, there's some improvement, or were you like, okay, this was supposed to happen, or was there complete happiness, like here comes the turn, or was there disappointment? What do you say, Matt, man? How did you feel after Friday night?
It's a good question, Coach. I'm sort of assessing it from the lens of, we're playing 2025 preseason football, right? So it's not, I'm sort of less concerned, to be honest with you, about like holistically as this football team and the score and the outcome. And I'm more looking for sort of individual things. I think the things that we all sort of wanted to play for are no longer available to us, right? I mean, we sort of came into this season, wanting to be top 12 in the country. But right now we're trying to be top 12 in the Big Ten. That's sort of where we are. So I'm looking for sort of individual things. The one individual element, Coach, that I was encouraged by is some of the younger defensive players emerging. And, two guys that really sort of stood out to me. One was Cam Fountain and the other was Sam Green. And I think Cam Fountain is a freshman, Sam Green is a sophomore. Those two kind of combining for 2 sacks and 3 TFLs, I thought was very encouraging. And the more those guys can kind of get reps and feel comfortable and start establishing a presence, I think the better this is going to be for SC in 25 as they start becoming these linchpins for next year's front seven. And I kind of love Fountain. Just seems like he's got that sprinter's reflex, when the gun goes off and you sort of jump out of your you jump out of your stance. Fountain kind of has that off of the snap. There's an explosiveness to Fountain that is sort of palpable that you can see. And I really like Green's just overall body and his mechanics. He's sort of a prototypical defensive lineman. So I think those two guys playing the way they did was really a bright spot for me. Second, Coach, obviously the secondary was so depleted in this game. No Jalen Smith, no Ramsey, no Covington. You didn't have very high expectations. I thought they battled. I thought they did a decent job. But truth be told, this felt, if you closed your eyes, this felt a lot like a game last year. This felt like a Grinch game, because, Rutgers had 89 plays to SC's 51. I mean, Rutgers kind of dominated like tempo, possession, number of plays. They were 11 for 22 on third down. They were 3 for 6 on fourth down. It just kind of came down to SC making kind of enough plays on a critical moment, whether that was in the red zone on fourth down or a couple third down conversions. They got enough sort of half stops over the course of the game to sort of create separation there. But, a lot to be desired for on the defensive side of the ball. Obviously, they competed well given the level of injury. But overall, it was sort of kind of a below average performance that leaves you sort of wanting more. And then I think the third takeaway, Coach, for me is, Miller Moss is still really good when he's got time, and I think that's really the key. This is still a very skilled quarterback. And if he has the time to be able to assess the defense and make his reads, he's really a terrific quarterback. And I think Rutgers not having their top pass rushers, you could tell that Rutgers, there was sort of a talent discrepancy defensively to the teams that SC has played the last couple of weeks. So credit to SC for sort of taking advantage of that on the offensive side of the ball. But, Coach, I will say I think Rutgers is probably the least talented team SC is going to play from now until the end of the year. So I think I really liked what I saw out of Fountain and Green. It was nice to see Miller Moss get back. And then, obviously, Makai Lemon is the star. So I'm looking at it sort of pieces. Holistically, I don't know if there was some huge jump or any sort of turning point from the lens of kind of looking at this as individual players for 25.
Real quick. Cam Fountain has some big shoes to wearing at number 49 on the D line.
Yes, sir.
Say that. Has some big shoes to fill. Ryan, how'd you feel coming out of Friday?
Yeah, I think overall good. They did what they were supposed to do, and I probably don't need to add too much after Jamal, but I think overall, I think the offense definitely improved. I mean, again, banged up defense, but outside of that final drive with their just salting away with Jaden Maeva, only 3 drives not resulting in touchdowns. So, touchdown on all but 3 drives. So moved the ball really well. I thought they had a real well-balanced attack, which we've obviously talked about a lot with Lincoln Riley play calling, 28 passes, 23 rushes. Woody Marks, another phenomenal game, getting in the end zone 3 times. And he ran the ball really well. So still would have loved to see a little bit more Quentin Joyner, but, Woody Marks is playing so well. So I understand that a little bit. And then defensively, I thought they obviously a lot to be desired in terms of yards given up, time of possession, as Jamal mentioned. But I think, to their credit, with all the guys out, the 4 secondary out this game, and then, can't always blame it. This isn't an excuse, just a fact. I mean, they were down 6 total starters when you look at the defensive line also with either injury or 7, if you include Eric Gentry. So when you look at injury or red shirt or transfer, or whatever. So a lot of youth up there. And I thought based on that youth, they gave up a lot in between the 20s, but then really buckled down, in the red zone, only giving up 2 touchdowns and 2 field goals. So, gave up a lot of yards against an inferior defense, but with a lot of youth and shuffling guys around. I do think they buckled down, in the red zone where it mattered and held them to 20 points. And then just the last thing I'll say is, in that second half when they pulled a 28-20 and everyone's like, all right, here we go again. Here we go. Going to blow a game. And then on the first play, get the Makai Lemon 70-yarder. And then they just pulled away from there, obviously not giving up another point defensively and offensively tacking on a few more. So to me, that does show improvement. Yeah, it's an inferior opponent, but they've given that up against the likes of Maryland and Minnesota. So I think that just the ability to do that and put away an inferior opponent in the way that they did in that latter half of the third and then into the fourth quarter, to me, does show some improvement there. So yeah, overall, I took a lot of good away from it. There's still a lot to be improved upon, but yeah, overall, good win.
Here comes the storm cloud, and I'm gonna be that guy. Friday should have created the quarterback controversy that we were all looking for. Jaden Maeva should have played majority of the second half of that game. There's no reason, even with the depleted defense, there's no reason why the offense should have not gotten out on them dudes the way they were. I'm looking at it. They gave up 3, they gave up 9, they gave up 8. They didn't score any. Jaden Maeva should have got the bulk of the second half reps. And I was actually talking to Jay earlier, and Jay made some good points. He was like, they're injured, and I understand the injuries, but when do we get to the point to where we're not replacing, we're reloading? This is the mecca of college. This is going to be the mecca of college football. This is going to be the place you come. When are we going to get to the point to where we're reloading? You know what I mean? Not reloading. I'm sorry. When are we going to get to the point to where we're just replacing? Everybody keeps saying this was an inferior opponent, but this game wasn't an inferior game. Utah State was an inferior game. This game was an inferior game. Ryan said it the best. It got to 20-28, and it got to, oh, no, here we go again. Why are we saying that? When are we going to stop saying that? Once again, I'm not thrilled with the way it was defensively, Does anybody know who DeMondre Miller is? Anybody knows? Any idea? Anybody guessing what round he's going to go? I should say this. Does anybody know who he was prior to Friday night? Let's start there. Nope, 131 yards. Athan Kalameskis. He's going to go be a lawyer. He's at one of the top law schools in America. He's going to go be a lawyer. 313 yards. At what point are the twos going to be just as good as the ones? At what point is SC going to just be a dominant school? And I'm with Jamal when you start to say this, like, it's either you're not a, hold on, I got a baby on the loose. Let me grab her. Okay. At what point it's either you're not an elite coach or you're not an elite program. It's one or the other. And it's starting to look like a little bit of both. And it's getting really, really frustrating to where you're saying this was an inferior opponent. This was an inferior opponent. But we didn't play him like an inferior opponent at all. I get the injuries. But at this point, I can't accept that excuse because we had so many excuses when we were healthy. We're not there yet. And when are we going to get there? You thought the Coliseum was empty Friday? Wait until the next Saturday game. They said it was look, I'm looking at it right now. They said it was 63,000 people were there. BS. I'll give you the truth. They count season tickets that were already sold. Wasn't 63,000 people there. There may barely be one side of the stadium filled up the next Saturday game because of the product that's put on the field. Hey, Lincoln, guess what? That's what got Helton fired. It wasn't the performance. It was the people in the stands. We're not in a place to where your school could be bad and the stadium's going to sell out. We're not in the SEC. We're not in a small town that's doing that. We're not putting a good product on the field at this moment. The offense was healthy. Why couldn't they put up 21 points a half? This was a 70-point game. This team couldn't hang with us. They shouldn't hang with us. And they were at one point. I think we get too happy. And I was even saying this. When did we become such a soft culture to where we get happy when superior teams beat bad teams? And we say, oh, here they come. They made the turn. No, you're supposed to do that. Everybody's supposed to wake up tomorrow morning and go to work and do your job. You're supposed to do that. I wasn't impressed. I'm sorry. Hate to be the gray cloud. I have to do this, but I wasn't impressed. That was not a dominant win. When are we going to become that team where we're like, oh, boy, this is the Trojans we want to see? How long are we going to wait? 7 years when they fire Lincoln? Like, when is this going to happen? That's where I am. I'll roll it over one of you guys. Madman, you got a smile, Ryan? One of you guys take it. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I mean, Coach, no, I mean, I think it's totally fair. Look, these are the kinds of games where it's very dangerous to get like too positive about. Like, this is a Rutgers team that gave up 430 yards and 5 touchdowns to Ethan Garbers at UCLA last week. He was Big Ten Offensive Player of the Week against this Rutgers team. So the fact that SC was able to put 42 on the board, not really saying much. I mean, I get the balance point of Ryan, but Riley's always very balanced when it's no stress. It's when there's stress, that's when the play selection question comes into play a little bit. It was a game you were supposed to win. I don't think it was particularly impressive. I think they get a pass because of the number of injuries. And Coach, to your point, we're not there. We're not a top 10, top 15 program where the drop off from the ones to the twos is, minor to incremental. It's a big drop off, especially with these young guys. So, there's a long road to sort of get to that point where, the ones are a 10 and the twos are a 9.5, and you're sort of only missing at the margins. So, it's always better to kind of learn from victory than it is from defeat. But I think you have to sort of look for specific things. And I think the young guys in the front seven did a really nice job. It was nice for Miller to get some confidence back. And then is this the game that Mekhi Lemon breaks out? So I think you got to look for those specific things that sort of carry over into these final 4 games. So was this some work of art or the team turned around? No, absolutely not. I mean, this was a game they were supposed to win at home. I think coming up now with Washington, that's going to be much more of a dogfight. And if they come out victorious there And if in the manner that they do, I think that's going to be much more of a signal for improvement than a game like Rutgers. Having said that, kind of considering where this team has been the last 3 weeks, sort of losing to the likes of Minnesota and Maryland, I think the bottom would have fallen out if they lost this game to Rutgers. I mean, I think Rutgers is playing really hard. Rutgers just simply doesn't have the Jimmies and the Joes right now. They're for as depleted as SC is, Rutgers is even more depleted because they don't have the depth that SC has. So when they go from a 1 to a 2, I mean, it's a catastrophic drop, and you can kind of see that. They just haven't had any semblance of a pass rush the last couple of weeks. So, you have to sort of take this performance with a grain of salt, Coach, to your point. And I think it's time to sort of turn the page and look ahead here to Washington in these final 4 games. I agree with you. I think, it'd be nice to have seen kind of a dominant win. But again, I don't think the level of depth was there to be able to do that. I think now this game coming up with Washington, 2-4-4 teams, very desperate. Washington's going to be very desperate this week, considering the type of schedule that they have. They've got a murderer's row schedule because they still have Oregon. They still got to play Ohio State. I mean, they have to win on Saturday to get to bowl eligibility. I mean, their bowl eligibility is on the line on Saturday, so I'm sure we'll get into a ton of that over the course of the week. That, to me, is going to be much more of a signal than Rutgers. Rutgers is kind of more of the ilk. It's closer to a Utah State than it is to, one of these bigger games in the Big Ten. And so, you get the victory and you move on.
Ryan, be the silver lining. I'm sorry.
No, the only thing, and I don't think you were directing that at me or Jamal.
No. I'm just saying, I need you to come be the optimistic guy that you normally are.
Oh, well, yeah. I was just going to say, like, I overall agree with you. I think where I see positive, where you might, is that they hadn't done this in 3 weeks. So if we're talking a week ago about they need to fire Lincoln and blow it all up, I think we would all agree, like, we just need to see like baby steps at this point. Like, what are the little things you can build upon? And they did something they hadn't done in 3 weeks. They closed the game out. When it got close, they then pushed it to 3 scores. So, I don't think it's anything to really hang your hat on. It's not a turning point by any means against a bad Rutgers team, but they accomplished what they hadn't in 3 weeks and whatnot, and did some good things on both sides of the ball. And we knew, I mean, the big thing for me too is we knew going into this year that there wasn't depth on defense. I mean, it was, this team was going to go. We didn't think it, the things that happened it would, but we knew in July this team was going to go as healthy as they could remain. I mean, that was going to rely on everything, because defensively, especially in the front 7, I mean, if they got past those 7 starters, there was a lot of question marks. I mean, we talked about that, I think, every show. So now you're without a lot of those guys, and we're seeing it glaring. And so this is where now the 24 class and the 25 class and 26 class really need to improve that side of the ball, specifically in the front 7. And I think we'll see a lot of young guys play. I think Desmond Stevens had another good game. Obviously, Jade Arbisari, and as you mentioned, Cam Fountain had a good game. And so seeing how the development of these young guys, so that you can get to that point where depth is not a major issue and a huge drop off going from these starters to these backups. So, not necessarily a turning point, but definitely at least something they hadn't done in 3 weeks.
Yeah, no, for sure, Ryan. The one thing I'll add, Coach, is I think in terms of the depth, our expectation was, to sort of Ryan's point, that the front 7 didn't have the depth. But let's not forget, I mean, in the offseason, we were talking a ton about the amount of depth the secondary had, if you guys recall. I mean, we were talking about the secondary being 11 deep, 12 deep. I mean, my God, do they even need to recruit more? All 3 of us were having that conversation. So the fact that, there were so many sort of passing yards also given up in this game, it shows that, there's a difference between the 1s and the 2s, even in the secondary, where on paper, we thought that was going to be sort of a deeper unit over the course of the season. We knew there was going to be a drop off with the front 7, but we thought there was greater depth in the secondary. And I think that sort of also kind of revealed itself this year that was not the case.
But why does it happen? Why? And that goes on my, I mean, it sends me back on my rant. Like, it's 3 years of the same thing. Like, all right, the first year, you didn't have the depth on defense. Something might have told you, hey, the second year, we might want to get some depth. The second year, you didn't have the depth on defense. Something might have wanted to told you, hey, this third year, we might want to get the depth. You still don't get the depth. It's just like, come on, man. Like,
and I would argue, Coach, I don't know if we're going to get the depth on defense next year either. I think it's just going to be, it's better players, potentially guys in the system. I mean, you're hoping that the Fountains, some subset of the Fountains and the Abasaris and the Greens and Lucas coming back, sort of emerges. And then obviously with Gentry coming back, Rayshawn Davis coming back, and then you got, the two linebacking recruits of 25, you're hoping some subset of that really becomes a refined front seven. But we also have to remember, right? I mean, this team is also losing Clifton. They're losing Meyer. They're losing Jameel Muhammad. They're losing Mascarenas Arnold. They're losing Cobb. So, there's a ton coming in, but there's also a lot exiting as well. So I think if we're really talking, Coach, about where do we get to that point where there's a ton of depth from the ones to the twos, I don't even think that's really some symptomatic of the 25 team. I think you're talking kind of 26 and beyond at that point, because now you're hoping that, these guys next year play really well as sophomores, and now they have to come back as juniors, right? Obviously not being 3 years removed from high school. And then you fortify with that 26 class. Now you start getting that depth in 26 and beyond. The question, of course, though, is, with the transfer portal and with NIL and all of these things, are you going to be able to retain these guys long enough for everything to be additive, right? I mean, one thing that wasn't being talked about is, hey, two of our guys, man, they were in the sideline this weekend with Coach Prime. I mean, Mr. Julian Lewis and Mr. Carday Smith were chilling in Boulder. So, is there more to that or less or what have you? They're just kind of enjoying a weekend with Coach Prime. Heck, I would. I mean, Boulder would be a really fun place to go for the weekend. Or, is there something to be concerned about? So even in those sort of situations where you feel like you've locked a guy down completely with a month or two left until signing period, you still have to worry. So when we're talking about depth, Coach, from 26 and beyond, that retention piece is going to be critical. How much NIL, how much of the value proposition these guys really buy into and believe in to then build that depth out.
It's too late. 26 is too late. 26 is absolutely too late. Like, we're talking about 26 building depth. That's too late. Like, I don't understand what's going on to where I put it like this. At this point, if I was a defensive coordinator, Lincoln Riley came and said, hey, we need a change, I would be like, I'll have to decline that offer. He's still not showing any interest in defense. There's depth in the receiver room. There's depth in the O-line room. There's depth in the running back room. But we're still talking about there's no depth on defense. Why is there no depth on defense? Like, that's the position that has the most contact besides the back four. Like, only 4 guys have the least amount of contact. The other 7 are in full contact all the time. Like, why is there no depth? Like, it just blows my mind that we're going through the same thing in year 3. It's just so frustrating. It's like me telling somebody, brush your teeth. Go to the dentist. Oh, you have a bad cavity. You got to get a root canal. Bet you brush your teeth now. Nope. Still don't brush your teeth. Oh, now you got to get another root canal. We're going down the same thing again. Now we're talking about, we're recruiting for 26. Why is he so comfortable to where he's like, oh, well, we'll have the depth in 26, 27, 28. You shouldn't be that comfortable. You shouldn't be happy with your last 3 performances as a USC head coach. Like, you shouldn't be. But you're building depth for 26? That's unacceptable. That's like me telling my boss, oh, I'll have it ready in 3 years. Don't worry about it. Like, I'll be a better employee in 3 years. I'm a bad employee up front, but in 3 years, I'll be the guy you want. That's exactly what's happening. What's going to happen is he's going to lose boosters. He's going to lose fans, right? And we know the fans are iffy. If he goes undefeated in 26 and the depth is there in 26, the fans will be back in the stands. But do you get the boosters back? These dudes are billionaires. They understand how things rotate. They understand forecasting. They see what people do. Why should I give you money? You're going to do the same thing. A zebra never changes stripes. You're going to be the same guy even though you're winning. Why is he not making the changes? Like, you got the depth on offense, but you refuse to put the depth on defense. It makes no sense to me at all. And now we're sitting here. We're at 28-20. Oh, boy. Here we go again. We get it. We got Makai Lemon playing out of his mind, saving the game. And now everybody wanted to see Mayava. Mayava gets dirt time. This should have been the game where everybody could be like, I legit thought on Thursday, like, everybody's going to flood our live and be like, Coach, I told you, Mayava was the guy. I told you Mayava was the guy. But you can't even say that because he didn't get the reps because we didn't put a good product on the field. Like those, and I'm gonna say it like this, and I'll let you guys have it. That's the standard I set. I set the standard as, they're playing Rutgers. Rutgers is not that great. Rutgers is far inferior than SC. Mayava should be playing by 8 minutes in the third quarter. He should get plenty of reps. We should be able to see this guy play. That did not happen. You did not meet that goal. Those are the standards I'm at. If you're not at those standards, then we're nowhere near a national championship team. We're nowhere near the Mecca. You get what I'm saying? Like, that's where we need to be. I'll pass it on. I'm done ranting. I'll pass it on to you guys.
I don't have anything else to add.
No, I mean, Coach, the one thing I'll say is, there's some fundamental, I think, restrictions as to where we are, and we have to sort of be open-eyed about it, right? And we've talked about this at length about, look, what's the appropriate timeline from a pure football perspective? And we've said, look, I think it's fair to assess Lincoln Riley after next year, after the 4 years, the magical 4 years, to sort of change some things around. But the reality is the finances don't add up, right? I mean, the buyout number is just too large. I know that there's been conversations about what Lincoln Riley's buyout number has been. There's been some articles that float around. I don't actually believe those are accurate because you can't have a buyout number greater than the contract value. That just doesn't even make any sense. So I don't think anyone really knows what the buyout number is unless you're sort of really inside those rooms. But it's a significant number. I mean, you're talking about a guy in year 3 of $100 to $110 million total contract. That means there's 70 to 80 million left owed to him. So even if you're at 80% of that, you're talking about a $50 to $60 million buyout. It's just too steep a price. So Lincoln Riley is going to be our coach in 2025 and 2026, whether he deserves it or not on the football field, but just the reality of the financial situation. So that's number one, Coach. I think he's at least going to be here till 26. So when you know that, you can start having sort of a timeline that perhaps is a little bit longer, number one, to your analogy. That's why this is so different from the real world, right? Like when you're an employee working for a company, very, very rarely are you in a position where you leaving the company is such a detriment to that company. Usually they're like, okay, go leave and we'll go find somebody else. And so the power dynamic is very different. Here, the power dynamic actually rests with Lincoln Riley because the buyout number is so huge and SC just fundamentally can't afford it. Few schools, if any, can. That's number one. Number two is, Coach, I think this is where the resources of NIL become very, very significant, right? And so when you talk about House of Victory being the face and you look at where the strategy is in terms of resource allocation and alignment, that's going to be the key. It's how big is your war chest, right? To be able to go attract a big time, not only high school, but also transfer recruits. That's how you are able to sort of build that depth. So I think those are the two knobs we sort of have to look at this from, is that Lincoln Riley is going to be the coach here through 2026, at least. Even if he doesn't deserve it on the field and the record doesn't show it, the finances warrant that, number one. And then number two, the degree to which we're going to be able to add depth and be a top 8, top 10 program again very, very quickly, unfortunately, is going to depend on how much NIL you have and what's your collective structure. That's sort of just the nature that we're in right now. So we're going to have to see how that shakes out. And especially when you have, maybe you're playing catch up with NIL, that's why it's so important that the bets that you do make, they come home for you, right? Like we doubled down on Bear and that didn't quite work out, and then when you're sort of dealing with things like injuries at inopportune times and then guys can redshirt, that's also where, the investment doesn't come home. So I think those are really the two underlying causes for why perhaps, this timeline, Coach, isn't, where you believe it needs to be. I think where we all want to see it, all the folks that have seen this program be what it was as the face of college football in the mid 2000s know we're still a ways from that. And how quickly can we turn the corner here?
Yeah, I'm worried. I'm worried about going to Seattle next week. I'm just want to let you know that, but we'll talk about that later in the week. I'm really worried about going to Seattle. So I don't know if Lincoln Riley's played in Seattle yet. I can't recall it, but if you don't know, they take those hats off and they start waving those hats and they start barking and it goes out into that lake and it comes right back into that aluminum stadium and it gets loud in Seattle, man. Those people in Seattle love their Huskies. I'm worried about going to Seattle, but we'll talk about that later on this week. I'm just not impressed, and I understand. And at this point, I thought I'd never see this, but excuse me, I'm more impatient than you right now, Jamal. I'm just being realistic. I'm just more impatient with you right now than you are right now, and it is what it is. It's just the standard. You know who's more impatient than me? Matt Leinart. Matt Leinart is pissed off. He was pissed off again on Friday. So,
Coach, I think it's just one of those things. I think you're spot on, and the heart is in such the right place, and frankly, we should all be feeling the way you're feeling. To be very honest with you, that's what the standard really should be. I think the reality is we all see the fact that this is going to be our head coach. This is going to be the amount of money that we have roughly from an NIL and an investment standpoint. So now, there's really no point kind of complaining about it. This is now, how do we make the most of this? And I think that's kind of where everyone's head is. And I think, to me, again, the goal here these next 4 weeks and these next 4 games is to have as many diamonds in the rough emerge as possible to really set up your roster for success next year. And we're seeing it, right? I mean, with Stevens and Tompkins and, Fountain and Green and, is Lemon wide receiver 1 and, seeing kind of get some clarity on your stars for next year and getting them some valuable experience, I think is going to really help kind of get ahead of that 8 ball for 25. Because this is structurally, Coach, I don't think we're going to be seeing structural change for the next 2 years, just given where we are from a resources standpoint. So now it's just a matter of making the most with what we have.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm just trying to fast track Barry Odom coming in and being the next USC head coach. That's my guy, Ryan. I meant to tell you that for the article. Barry Odom. Barry Odom is the guy. I think Barry Odom is the guy. I'm just saying. So I'm team Barry Odom right now. It is what it is. You're right. But I just can't. I don't want
absolutely, Coach. I mean, you and I went to USC at the absolute heyday. So it's hard to sort of say, hey, this is what it is at this point, especially when you had a guy make so many promises very early. And I think it's important. I mean, I think, you want to stay positive just for your own sanity. But too much positivity is a cancer. I mean, some of these folks who are just like so positive about this team, I don't know what you're watching. I don't know what world you're living in. I don't know really how you can sort of get there. It's probably just a really nice mechanism. I sort of admire it just from a denial standpoint, but, I think there's a healthy balance there of, this is the nature of the program that we have right now for the next 2 years. So let's see if we can make the most of it.
Yeah, I got you. I just don't know how to do it. You know what I mean? And you're right. I don't want the false positive self-talk. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to set my mind to where it's like, okay, this is acceptable, this is acceptable, this is acceptable. And then next thing you know, it's 2029 and we've completely accepted it.
Well, Coach, it's funny. I mean, I think that's where a lot of the animosity for USC kind of comes from. It's in that sort of false positivity, and we sort of joke about it a little bit because we can. We're insiders. We love the school. We want to see this team succeed. But there is sort of a tendency, right? I mean, with our fan base, like if a guy ties his shoes correctly, he's going to be the next 5-star. The guy's winning either the Heisman or the guy's winning, the Bolitnikov. So there is kind of a tendency. We like to take things and run with it very quickly because we're so passionate. We're so excited and we want to see it succeed so quickly, and I think a lot of other fan bases don't seem to like that because they're sort of in a more pessimistic place. But that's what makes SC so much fun. But we are where we are, Coach.
I got you. I just have to take this shot one time. Hold on. I'm pulling it up. I'm sorry. And I completely botched this. I had it up on my computer, but I have to take this shot one time because it doesn't complete my week if I don't take a shot at these guys. But let me ask you this question. If we played Idaho, Boise, Oregon State, We were going to play UCLA, Michigan State, Ohio State, Purdue, Illinois, and then we'll be prepared to play Michigan next week. Do you think our record will be better?
Can you say the list again?
Idaho.
Okay.
Boise State.
Okay.
Oregon State.
Okay.
We already have UCLA on our schedule, so we'll say that's a bye week. Michigan State. Ohio State. Purdue. Illinois. And then we'll be this week coming up, we'll be preparing to play Michigan. Do you think our record would be better?
I think we'd probably be one game better.
One game better?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
I think we probably lose to Ohio State, Boise State, and probably lose to Illinois and win the others.
Got you. Do you think this is a very strong roster that deserves to be the number one team in the nation?
I know where you're going with it. I know where you're going with it.
I had this conversation earlier. I just thought I'd share it with you guys.
But the bottom line is, Coach, they're undefeated off of that
undefeated,
schedule, right?
I know.
Including Ohio State. So I think Oregon is sort of warranted to be the number one team in the country right now. Obviously, that'll change week over week. Coach, I got to be honest with you. I'm a little worried about you in the sense that if Oregon wins the Natty, the two guys that I'm most worried about are you and fight on Rusty. Those are the two guys I worry for. It's that's going to be.
If Oregon wins the national championship, we have to win one next year because I'm gonna have to live with it for 10 years. I'm gonna have to live with it that's Thanksgiving. That's like 6 birthdays, like family events. I'm gonna have to live with it for 10 years consistently, like forever gonna have to live with it. I was able to rub we got the first Big Ten championship. I was able to rub that in, but the response was, so you're proud of women's soccer. All right, cool. Like, so like it is what it is. But I got to give him a hard time. It's a family thing. It's nothing personal. It's all family. If he would have never went to Oregon, I would have not even cared about Oregon. So it's not like cutting at my soul, like fight on Rusty. Like, it's not a big deal. It's more of a sibling rivalry. So that's all it is. But it'll
be fine. I mean, I'll tell you one thing, and this is, again, I mean, I've said it before, and then we'll get out of here, Coach. I mean, if Oregon wins the national championship, I actually think it kills the Notre Dame rivalry, because I think Oregon now becomes the primary SC rival. In a very deep and provocative way. If Oregon wins the Natty this year, I think the dynamic of who we care about changes very significantly.
The problem is Oregon are like the Dallas Cowboys, so they'll blow it in the playoffs.
Well, hey, for your sake, Coach, I'm
They'll lose in Camp Randall.
Oh, there you go. They're actually going to my sister-in-law is going to the Camp Randall game because she played volleyball there at Oregon, so she's going to.
But they're at the point right now where they can drop one and they're still in the playoffs. So
yeah, definitely. Ryan, you got anything before we get out of here? I wanted to bring USC Jay on, but his computer crashed, so I said we'll get him on next week. So we owe USC Jay some time. You got anything before we get out of here, Ryan?
Nope.
Be the golden ray of sunshine that you are. No?
You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy.
You know why you're optimistic, Ryan? Because you're from Colorado, and Colorado's like more Midwest. It's like the Midwest nice thing. So like that's why you always have that. You can find that ray that make everything's positive, and I appreciate you for that.
Well, thank you.
That's all. Well, guys,
you just looped in the whole middle of the country as like one thing, from the Midwest to Colorado. That's like 30 states,
Well, not necessarily, because don't you consider Nebraska the Midwest?
I do.
Nebraska and Colorado is fairly close. I've made that drive.
And Colorado's kind of its own culture too, though. Yeah.
If you, I'll end on this. If you guys ever, and I guarantee Ryan could agree with me, if you ever want to go to a low key spot for vacation that's extremely nice, has the river and everything. Joey, we're not going to the UW game. Sorry.
I will be there, actually.
Oh, Ryan's going. See, Ryan does things and doesn't tell us, and they'll be like, "Oh, I'm going. I hope I get my media pass for the Nebraska game." Anyway, neither here nor there. Durango, Colorado is a very good place to vacation. Very low key, extremely nice. When you come in on a hill and you see the whole city. It is out of this world nice. Agree or disagree, Ryan?
Yeah, Durango's. I mean, every mountain town's great, but Durango's like more of a hidden gem because it's South
Yep.
Rocky Mountains, so it's harder to get to, but it's awesome.
Put it on your list, Jamal. Durango, Colorado.
Durango. Okay. All right.
It's
Don't
easier
go-
actually to fly to like Albuquerque and then drive from there up to Durango because from Denver it's like 7 hours.
Yeah, from Albuquerque, it's like 5 or 6.
Yeah, it's probably close to the same, but
because Las
closer.
Vegas, it was 4, and Albuquerque is 2 hours from Las Vegas. So yeah, it's like maybe 5, but neither here nor there. You guys, Durango, Colorado, put it on your list. I promise you on that one. Good deal. I appreciate you guys. We get to do it again. Ryan, we don't get you tomorrow, but Madman, we get to hang out. Yeah, we get to hang out. Trojans win. Victory Sunday. Sorry, I'm such a Debbie Downer on this Victory Sunday. I'll get better. I will work on myself to be better. Let's put it that way. And so I'll work on myself to be better. I appreciate all you guys for watching. Hey, if you guys want to get in any action, don't forget to go to BetOnline, betonline.ag. If you guys want to, flying to Colorado Springs. Oh, yeah. No, Colorado Springs is an hour closer.
Yeah, if you can afford to. Colorado Springs is just a tiny little airport, but
yeah,
gives you an extra 2-hour jump from DIA.
Yeah. Good one, Jeff. He must have been to Durango before. He flew from Colorado Springs.
Yeah.
Where was that? Oh, Ultimate Fantasy, Underdog Fantasy. Go to underdogfantasy.com or download the app. Put in promo code USCLAFB. And if you guys want to get in on all these stories that these great two gentlemen are writing, go to LAFBnetwork.com. It's now Los Angeles Fan Base Network, right? That's what we are. Are we going that way?
Yeah, that's what we're going with, something like that. Yeah.
I heard it on the Rams live. They got the Trojans, they got the Rams, they got the Chargers, they have the other team, and coming slowly are Lakers and Dodgers media talk. My question is, I'm all about diversity and inclusion. Are we going to get the Kings?
Oh yeah, eventually.
Oh, there we go. And
we'll
the Kings are coming. I don't care about the Ducks. I don't care about the Ducks.
Yeah, Coach, we got to attend a Rams podcast so we can have an LAFB team meeting, it seems. All the decisions are being made on that podcast, so we'll join it.
I was on the Rams podcast. I wasn't on it, but
I need to join it with you. Yeah.
I just hit the comments up. I like hanging out with those guys on it. Like I do with you and Thrill when you guys do the Bruin Bible. But yeah, go to LAFB. Oh, Jeff is in Colorado Springs. Nice. Go there. I appreciate you guys. I love all you guys. Let's just put our head down. Keep fighting. I'll be like Jamal. I might learn to become patient. Patience is a virtue. I do plan on seeing my Lord one day, so maybe I need to become patient. So good deal. Hey, you guys know how it's go. Thank you guys for joining. Live free. Fight on.